Ever wondered what makes Amish food so special? It's not just about the ingredients or the cooking methods. It's the unique traditions that make their meals truly one of a kind. From old family recipes to clever ways of preserving food,
Cooking plates, top, the doors, the front, and all that.
the Amish have a style of cooking that's been passed down for generations. In this video, we'll be talking about 20 Amish food traditions you probably didn't know about, and trust me, you'll wish you knew them sooner. These traditions aren't just about food. They're about community, simplicity, and some seriously delicious meals. So if you've ever been curious about Amish food and the little secrets behind it, stick around. You might just find your next favorite dish. 1. Farm-to-table freshness. Ever thought about how good it would feel to know exactly where every bite of food on your plate came from? That's the Amish way. The Amish are the epitome of farm-to-table living. But they take it a step further. In Amish communities, meals are built from the fruits of their own labor, from fresh eggs collected from the henhouse at dawn to vegetables picked straight from the garden. Amish cooking is all about sustainability and self-sufficiency. Imagine starting your morning with eggs that are still warm from the nest, milk from cows that grazed in nearby pastures, and honey from the beehive just outside the door. These foods aren't only fresh, they're practically bursting with flavor, the kind of flavor you only get when things are grown naturally and allowed to ripen at their own pace. The Amish don't rely on stores or industrial farms for their food supply, and that's what makes their meals stand out. Every meal is a reflection of the seasons, from crisp summer tomatoes to hearty root vegetables in the winter. The beauty of this tradition is that it's not just about food, it's about the lifestyle. Growing your own food means more than just knowing what's in it. It's about building a deep connection with the land. For the Amish, food isn't just fuel, it's a way to honor the earth and their hard work. In a world where many of us are disconnected from where our food comes from, Amish meals remind us of a simpler, more meaningful way of living, one that makes each meal an occasion worth savoring. That kind of patience really makes a difference, doesn't it? But that's just one part of the story. There's another tradition that's just as fascinating. The art of canning and preserving. You ever walk into a pantry and feel like you're stepping into a time capsule? Jars of homemade jams, pickles, and sauces, each one carefully sealed and preserved, ready to be opened at a moment's notice. This is the magic of Amish canning and preserving, a tradition that goes beyond just putting food away for the winter. For the Amish, preserving food isn't just practical, it's an art form. During harvest season, Amish families go into full canning mode. They gather fruits, vegetables, and even meats, then spend days together, preserving these items in glass jars. This ensures that throughout the harsh winter months, when fresh produce isn't available, they'll still have access to the food they grew with their own hands. But it's not just about keeping food fresh. Canning locks in the flavors and the nutrients, allowing families to enjoy the best of the harvest even in the coldest months. Imagine opening a jar of sweet peaches in December, the bright, tangy taste instantly transporting you back to the warmth of summer. Beyond just preserving food, canning is about family. It's a communal activity that brings people together, with older generations teaching the younger ones how to preserve the harvest. This process doesn't just fill jars, it fills hearts with a sense of tradition, purpose, and pride. When the Amish pull a jar from their pantry, it's not just about the food inside, it's about the memories and love that went into preparing it. It's interesting how much thought goes into something as simple as food. And speaking of that, there's another thing the Amish do that might surprise you. 3. Baking as a community affair. What's the best part about going to a family gathering? The food, right? Now, imagine walking into an Amish home where the scent of freshly baked bread fills the air. There's something about the smell of a loaf that just makes you feel at home. Baking, for the Amish, is more than just about whipping up a quick loaf of bread. It's a cherished tradition, one that's done together as a community. In Amish culture, baking isn't just a solitary task. It's an event. Families gather around, each person taking on a role, whether it's kneading dough, measuring ingredients, or decorating pies. This process is about more than just making food, it's about making memories. The kitchen becomes a place where stories are shared, recipes are handed down, and laughter fills the room. The Amish aren't just baking to eat, they're baking to connect with each other. Whether it's a sweet molasses-soaked choufle pie, fluffy cinnamon rolls, or hearty homemade bread, these baked goods are the heart and soul of Amish hospitality. And let's talk about those recipes. These are treasures. Passed down through generations, Amish baking recipes are often kept secret, closely guarded by each family. When you taste a loaf of bread or a slice of pie, you're not just tasting a dessert. You're tasting decades, sometimes centuries of tradition. Every bite is an invitation to experience the love, care, and time that went into creating something so simple yet so special. You wouldn't think something so simple could have such a big impact, but it really does. And that's not the only thing that makes their food stand out. 4. The tradition of church suppers.
Wow, yeah, in the Amish we use those in the barn.
Yeah, get the cobwebs out of the
Ever been to a potluck where the food just keeps coming and each dish feels like it was made with love? That's the essence of Amish church suppers. These community gatherings are more than just meals. They are celebrations of faith, fellowship, and food. For the Amish, food is an extension of their faith, and church suppers are a way to connect with their community while sharing a meal prepared from the heart. Church suppers often feature long tables piled high with all kinds of dishes, from creamy mashed potatoes and roast chicken to buttery corn on the cob and pies of every flavor imaginable. But what makes these suppers so special isn't just the food, it's the communal aspect. Everyone pitches in, bringing their best dishes to share with others. There's no need for fancy setups or elaborate menus, just good, wholesome food prepared with care. These gatherings are about more than just eating. They're a chance to bond with neighbors and friends, to reflect on shared experiences, and to celebrate the blessings of the day. And while each church supper may feature different dishes depending on the season and the community, one thing remains constant: the spirit of togetherness. Sitting down to a church supper, you're not just eating a meal, you're becoming part of a larger, loving family. In a world where we often eat alone or on the go, the Amish church supper offers a reminder that food is at its best when it's shared with others. It's funny how some of these traditions have been around for generations, yet most people have never even heard of them. Here's another one that's worth knowing. 5. The Amish love for preserved meats. Who doesn't love the rich, smoky flavor of a perfectly cured piece of meat? For the Amish, preserving meat isn't just a practical way to stock up for the winter. It's a time-honored tradition that adds depth and flavor to their meals. Amish families are experts in smoking, curing, and drying meats, transforming simple cuts into culinary treasures. These preserved meats are staples in their kitchens, where they're used to create hearty meals that stand the test of time. One of the most iconic preserved meats in Amish cooking is smoked ham. After curing the ham for several weeks, it's slow-cooked over wood, imbuing it with a deep, smoky flavor that's hard to beat. Then there's the Amish bacon. Oh, the bacon. It's not the kind you find at the local supermarket, shrink-wrapped and bland. Amish bacon is thick-cut, rich, and savory, often fried up until the edges crisp and curl. Whether it's tossed in a soup, served alongside breakfast, or used to flavor a dish, it adds a level of indulgence that's hard to match. But the love for preserved meats isn't just about taste, it's also about sustainability. In Amish communities, where every meal is tied to the land, preserving meat for the winter months is essential. It's a way to make sure that the food from the summer harvest lasts through these cold months when fresh produce is scarce. The preservation process also gives meats an incredible shelf life, meaning they can be enjoyed long after the animals have been butchered. The Amish approach to preserving meat is a balance of old-world techniques and a deep respect for the food they raise, turning every bite into a delicious experience rooted in tradition. You ever wonder why Amish food just tastes different, like richer, creamier, somehow more? Well, a big part of that comes down to one thing: dairy. And trust me, the Amish have mastered it. 6. The Amish and their love of dairy. If there's one thing the Amish do better than most, it's dairy. If you've ever tasted fresh Amish butter, you'll know exactly what I mean. It's rich, creamy, and made with the kind of care that makes every spreadable bite feel like a treat. Dairy is a central part of Amish life, especially in communities where cows are often a family's most important asset. From butter to milk to cheese, Amish dairy products are a cornerstone of their food culture, and they know how to make it taste exceptional. Let's start with the butter. Amish butter is made in small batches from the freshest cream, often hand-churned to perfection. It's thick, spreadable, and has a depth of flavor that's hard to find anywhere else. When you smear it over a slice of homemade bread, it's like you found heaven on a plate. But that's just the beginning. Amish cheese, particularly their aged cheddar, is a favorite in many households. It's sharp, flavorful, and perfect for sandwiches, snacks, or just enjoying with crackers. Milk, too, plays a central role in Amish cooking. The Amish don't just drink milk, they use it in everything from pancakes to sauces to desserts. Fresh milk, often still warm from the cow, is a key ingredient in many Amish dishes, giving them a richness and smoothness that's hard to replicate with store-bought milk. The Amish also use cream in everything from mashed potatoes to pies, adding a luscious, velvety texture that elevates their food to another level. In a world where mass-produced dairy can sometimes feel bland and tasteless, Amish dairy products remind us that food made with love and care is what truly nourishes the body and soul. For the Amish, dairy isn't just about a product, it's about honoring their animals and the land they live on. 7. The tradition of hand preparing. All meals from scratch. In Amish communities, the tradition of preparing all meals from scratch is not just about saving money or cooking efficiently. It's deeply intertwined with their commitment to simplicity, self-sufficiency, and faith. The Amish believe that food should be a reflection of care, patience, and humility. For them, the process of hand-preparing meals is an expression of these values, demonstrating a reverence for the land and the work involved in creating nourishing meals from scratch. One of the most striking features of Amish food traditions is the commitment to cooking without modern conveniences. Forget about microwaves, prepackaged meals, or ready-made sauces. Amish families make everything from bread and butters to pies and stews by hand. It's a labor-intensive process that takes hours, but it's an essential part of their lifestyle. Every single meal is made from locally grown ingredients, ensuring the food is fresh and unprocessed. The tradition of hand-preparing meals also fosters strong family bonds. Amish women, often seen as the primary meal preparers, pass down recipes from generation to generation. Young girls learn how to bake bread, prepare hearty soups, and make preserves by observing and helping their mothers. These recipes are not only about nourishing the body, but also about connecting to one's roots and preserving cultural heritage. The foods are often simple, but bursting with flavor, nothing like the mass-produced foods available in modern grocery stores. For the Amish, it's not just about eating, it's about celebrating the slow, intentional process of creating food from the earth and sharing it with loved ones. It's a beautiful, time-honored tradition that highlights their values of simplicity, community, and devotion. You know what else makes Amish cooking special? They don't waste a thing. 8. The no-waste rule. Alright, let's get one thing straight. If you're Amish, wasting food is practically a crime. Okay, not literally, but you definitely get a few disapproving stares if you dared to toss out perfectly good leftovers. In Amish kitchens, everything has a second life. Yesterday's mashed potatoes, boom, potato pancakes. That stale bread? Get ready for some legendary bread pudding. Bacon grease? Oh, you better believe that's getting saved for frying up tomorrow's eggs. And it's not just about leftovers. Every part of an ingredient is used. Vegetable peels, they go into making homemade broth. Meat bones, simmered for hours to make the richest, most flavorful stock you've ever had. Even the lard from butchering gets rendered and stored for baking. It's like food reincarnation, and honestly, we could all learn a thing or two from it. The reason behind this isn't just about being thrifty, though let's be real, that's a bonus. It's about respect. Respect for the food, the effort that went into making it, and the people who worked hard to see grow it. When you live in a community where self-sufficiency is the game, you don't just throw stuff away because you don't feel like eating it. Ever tried making dinner while also babysitting a fire? No? Then you've never cooked on a wood stove. 9. Cooking over wood stoves. While the rest of us flick a switch or press a button, the Amish are out here chopping wood, tending fires, and mastering the art of cooking over an open flame. Sounds old school, right? Well, yeah. But the food? Absolutely next level. Unlike modern stoves, which heat up instantly, a wood stove requires patience. You have to build the fire, manage the flames, and adjust the heat by adding or removing logs. It's a whole process, and if you're not careful, you'll either end up with half-cooked biscuits or an incinerated pie. There's no low, medium, or high setting, you just have to know. But here's the magic. Cooking with a wood stove makes food taste different. The heat is slow and steady, which means homemade bread gets that perfect golden crust. Soups simmer for hours and develop deep, rich flavors, and fried chicken comes out crispier than you ever thought possible. Even coffee tastes better when brewed over an open flame. And it's not just about the food, it's about the experience. A wood stove warms the kitchen in winter, fills the house with the comforting scent of fresh bread, and makes cooking feel less like a chore and more like an art form. Sure, it takes effort, but ask any Amish cook and they'll tell you it's worth it. Alright, let's get one thing straight. If you hear pot pie and immediately think of those little frozen pies with flaky crusts, forget everything you know. Amish pot pie, completely different story. 10 Amish-style pot pie with thick dough squares. Instead of a pie crust, this dish features thick, chewy squares of homemade dough that are dropped straight into a bubbling, flavorful broth. Think of it like a soup meets dumpling situation, and it is pure comfort food. The process starts with rolling out a simple dough, just flour, eggs, and water, then cutting it into large squares. These thick noodles go right into a big pot of simmering chicken or beef broth, where they soak up the rich flavors while still keeping that slightly chewy texture. The result? A dish that's hearty, satisfying, and perfect for cold nights. But why make it this way instead of a traditional pie? Well, for one, it stretches ingredients further. Back in the day, when families had to make do with what they had, a big pot of this could feed everyone without requiring a ton of meat. It's a practical, no-fuss meal that doesn't need fancy ingredients, just good, simple cooking. And let's be real, this is the kind of food that makes you feel like you're wrapped in a warm hug. One spoonful and you're transported to a cozy kitchen, sitting around a big wooden table with family, listening to stories while the fire crackles in the background. So if you ever get the chance to try Amish pot pie, don't expect some fancy, picture-perfect dish. Expect better. Expect something rustic, rich, and so satisfying you'll be dreaming about it for days. Since nothing goes to waste in an Amish kitchen, it makes sense that their approach to meat is just as resourceful. 11 Traditional Hog Butchering Days. Okay, this one might sound a little intense, but stick with me. Hog Butchering Day is huge in Amish communities, and it's about so much more than just food. Once winter rolls around, families come together to process a hog, turning it into a full pantry of smoked meats, sausages, lard, and more. And when I say nothing goes to waste, I mean nothing. The men handle the butchering while the women get to work preserving the meat, curing bacon, making sausages, rendering lard for baking, and even using the bones to make rich, flavorful broths. The kids? They're usually helping stir giant pots of scrapple, a mix of pork scraps and cornmeal that turns into a breakfast staple. But here's the thing. This isn't just a day of hard work, it's also a social event. Neighbors come together to help, swap stories, and share meals. It's a tradition that strengthens community bonds, teaches younger generations valuable skills, and ensures that everyone has enough food to last through the winter. And honestly, considering how expensive and processed grocery store meat is these days, maybe they're onto something. So yeah, it might sound hardcore, but for the Amish, it's just another way of life, one that values resourcefulness, tradition, and making the most of every single thing nature provides. After a long day of hard work, the Amish know how to slow down and enjoy the simple things, like a big gathering over homemade ice cream. 12 Homemade Ice Cream Socials. Imagine a warm summer evening in the heart of Amish country. The sun is setting, casting a golden hue over the rolling fields. Families gather, laughter fills the air, and at the center of it all, a hand-cranked ice cream maker, churning out the creamiest, most delightful homemade ice cream you've ever tasted. In Amish communities, ice cream isn't just a dessert, it's an event. Making ice cream is a communal activity, often bringing families and neighbors together. The process begins with fresh, high-quality ingredients, milk and cream, sourced straight from the family's own cows. These are combined with sugar and natural flavorings, then poured into an old-fashioned ice cream maker. But here's the twist. Instead of an electric machine, they use a hand-cranked freezer. It's a labor of love, requiring muscle and teamwork. But the reward? Oh, it's worth every turn of the handle. Once the ice cream reaches the perfect consistency, it's time to indulge. Served alongside fresh, seasonal fruits like strawberries and peaches, or perhaps topped with a splash of homemade root beer for a classic float, this treat embodies the simple pleasures of life. The tradition of gathering for ice cream socials strengthens community bonds, offers a break from daily chores, and creates lasting memories. It's not just about the ice cream, it's about the experience, the togetherness, and the joy of savoring something truly homemade. And speaking of fresh, homemade goodness, the Amish have some serious skills when it comes to cheesemaking too. 13 Traditional Cheesemaking Practices. Cheese lovers, gather round. Let's journey into the heart of Amish country, where cheesemaking isn't just a process, it's an art form passed down through generations. In these communities, cheese isn't mass-produced in factories, it's handcrafted with dedication, precision, and a whole lot of love. The magic begins on small, family-owned farms, each typically tending to about 10 cows. These cows graze on natural, pesticide-free grasses, ensuring the milk they produce is pure and flavorful. Hormones? Not here. It's all about keeping things as natural as possible. Once the fresh milk is collected, it's delivered in numbered cans, allowing every batch of cheese to be traced back to its source, a testament to their commitment to quality and transparency. In the cheese house, traditional methods reign supreme. The milk is heated and combined with natural rennet, sparking the curdling process. After the curds form, they're cut, stirred, and cooked to release whey. Then they're pressed into molds, salted, and aged to perfection. The result? Cheeses that boast rich, complex flavors and textures, each wheel telling a story of the land and the hands that crafted it. This meticulous process isn't about shortcuts or mass production. It's about honoring time-tested techniques, ensuring sustainability, and producing food that's both delicious and nourishing. So, the next time you savor a piece of Amish cheese, remember, you're tasting a tradition that's been lovingly preserved for centuries. And while we're on the topic of homemade goodness, it's not just cheese that the Amish make from scratch. Pretty much everything in their kitchens is the real deal. 14. No use of processed foods. In the world of Amish cooking, processed foods just don't stand a chance. Forget those store-bought, pre-packaged meals that are loaded with preservatives and artificial flavors. The Amish keep it real with everything made from scratch. From bread that's soft, warm, and fresh out of the oven, to butter so creamy you'd swear it's from a dream, they know that homemade is always better. And it's not just the big stuff. They make everything, from jams and jellies to pickles and pies, using only what nature provides. You could almost feel the warmth of the kitchen as the scent of freshly baked bread fills the air, and the satisfaction of knowing it's all made by hand, with love. This dedication to real, unprocessed food is part of what makes Amish cooking so special. When you eat an Amish meal, it's not just food. It's a reminder of simpler times where the focus was on quality ingredients and time spent together. No shortcuts, no chemicals, just wholesome, hearty goodness that's been passed down through generations. So, the next time you're indulging in that store-bought snack, think about how much better it could taste if it were made the Amish way. Pure, simple, and 100% homemade. Now, when it comes to sharing that homemade goodness, the Amish take it to another level with their weekly market traditions. 15 weekly market traditions. When it comes to Amish food traditions, the weekly market plays a big part. In Amish communities, markets aren't just places to shop, they're a vital part of the culture. What's interesting about these markets is the way food is sold, often in bulk. You won't find small, pre-packaged items here. Instead, you'll see large containers of homemade jams, fresh baked goods, and lots of local produce, all ready for the taking. The bulk buying isn't just about convenience. It's tied to the Amish values of community and sharing. Food isn't just for one family, it's meant to be shared with others. Amish markets reflect that spirit. They're a place where the community comes together, where neighbors meet up, exchange food, and talk about their week. It's a direct way to show how food traditions are about bonding, not just eating. Even with the bulk offerings, everything is homemade. And there's a sense of pride in knowing that everything you're buying is made with care, often from the local ingredients. This way of shopping reflects the Amish belief into supporting one another, whether it's through the food they produce or the way they share it with others. If you ever get the chance to visit one of these markets, you'll quickly realize that it's more than just a shopping trip. It's a window into the heart of Amish food culture. As much as the Amish value sharing and supporting their community, they also have a knack for doing things the old-fashioned way in the kitchen. No electricity required. 16. Cooking without electricity. Imagine whipping up a full meal, baking bread, frying chicken, making soup, all without the convenience of electricity. No electric stoves, no microwaves, no blenders, just raw ingredients, fire, and a whole lot of skill. Sounds impossible, right? Well, for the Amish, it's just another day in the kitchen. Since the Amish reject modern conveniences, they rely on traditional cooking methods that have been passed down for generations. Instead of electric stoves, they use wood-burning stoves, which not only cook food, but also heat the home in the winter. Learning to control the heat on these stoves is an art form in itself. Too hot, and your bread burns. Too cool, and your soup takes forever to simmer. But here's the real kicker. Without refrigerators, Amish families have to plan their meals carefully to ensure nothing goes to waste. Fresh ingredients are used right away, while meats and dairy are kept cool in underground cellars or ice houses. Yes, ice houses. Large blocks of ice, harvested in winter, are stored in insulated buildings and used to keep food cold year-round. Cooking without electricity also means no shortcuts. Everything is done by hand, chopping, grinding, mixing, so meals take time. But that's the beauty of it. It's about patience, skill, and a deep appreciation for the process. Speaking of hands-on methods, let's talk about how the Amish make their butter from scratch. 17. Churning butter by hand. Okay, tell me this. When was the last time you even thought about how butter is made? Most of us just grab a stick from the grocery store without a second thought. But for the Amish, butter isn't just something you buy. It's something you create, one slow, labor-intensive churn at a time. The process starts with fresh raw milk, straight from the cow. The cream is separated and left to sit for a bit, allowing it to develop a deeper, richer flavor. Then comes the fun and exhausting part. Churning. Traditionally, this is done using a wooden churn with a plunger-like dasher that moves up and down, gradually thickening the cream into butter. And let me tell you, this isn't a quick task. It takes serious arm strength and a whole lot of patience. But the reward? Butter that's nothing like the pale processed stuff you find in stores. It's richer, creamier, and packed with a depth of flavor that makes everything taste better. Once the butter is ready, it's rinsed, salted, and molded into blocks. Some Amish families even shape their butter into decorative patterns because if you're going to put in all that effort, why not make it look pretty too? The best part? This butter isn't just for spreading on toast. It's used in baking, frying, and even Amish apple butter, which if you haven't tried, you're seriously missing out. So next time you slather butter on your pancake, just imagine an Amish grandmother churning away, making magic happen in her kitchen. After all that hard work in the kitchen, the Amish know how to come together and celebrate, especially when there's a barn to raise. 18. Community barn raising feasts. Now, this is where food and community come together in the best way possible. You've probably seen barn raisings in movies, dozens of Amish men working together to construct a massive wooden barn in just a day or two. But what those movies don't always show, the absolute feast that goes down behind the scenes. While the men are out hammering and sawing, the women are busy preparing a meal big enough to feed an army. And when I say big, I mean big. We're talking roasted meats, fresh baked bread, mountains of mashed potatoes, homemade pies, essentially a full-on banquet. The food isn't just about feeding hungry workers, it's about celebrating the spirit of togetherness. These meals are made with love, served family style, and enjoyed with laughter, stories, and gratitude. Imagine sitting at a long wooden table, surrounded by friends and neighbors, digging into food made from scratch. It's a level of warmth and connection that's hard to find in today's fast-paced world. And here's the best part, no one is keeping score. There's no expectation of payment or return favors. The Amish believe in helping one another purely because it's the right thing to do. The food, the labor, the time, it's all given freely, strengthening their bonds as a community. Once the barn is raised and the feast is done, the Amish are back to the land, growing and canning their own food to ensure the pantry is stocked for the seasons ahead. 19. Growing and canning. Their own food. Picture this. A pantry lined with rows upon rows of vibrant, colorful jars, deep red tomatoes, golden peaches, bright green beans, rich purple beets. That's an Amish kitchen for you. While most of us hit the grocery store, whenever we run out of something, the Amish have mastered the art of growing, preserving, and stocking up for the long haul. Canning isn't just a fun little hobby for them, it's a way of life. Since Amish families live off the land, they grow massive gardens filled with everything from corn and cucumbers to berries and beans. But they don't just eat it fresh, they preserve almost everything for winter when fresh produce isn't available. Tomatoes are turned into sauces and soups, peaches are jarred in syrup, cucumbers become pickles, and green beans are neatly packed in brine. And let's not forget Amish jams, thick, sweet spreads made from homegrown strawberries, blackberries, or even elderberries. No artificial preservatives, no weird ingredients, just fruit, sugar, and thyme. But here's what makes it even more special. Canning is a family affair. Kids help wash and chop, moms fill the jars, and dads handle the boiling water baths. The whole process is steeped in tradition, patience, and a deep appreciation for nature's bounty. Let's talk about something that might sound a little old-fashioned, but it's honestly genius: preserving food for the winter. 20. Making preserves for the winter. The Amish are pros at this, and they've been doing it for generations. We're talking pickling, canning, jarring, basically storing up all the fresh goodness of the harvest so it can be enjoyed well after the first frost hits. Each year, Amish families spend days or even weeks preparing for the cold months ahead. They can fruits and vegetables from their gardens, pickle cucumbers, and make jams and jellies from berries and other seasonal fruits. It's all about preparing for the winter, when fresh produce isn't as accessible. Now, this isn't the quick, throw it in a jar and hope for the best method. No, Amish preserving is an art. The jars are carefully sterilized, filled with the right mix of fruit, sugar, and preservatives, and sealed properly to ensure they stay good for months. The result? A pantry stocked with vibrant, flavorful fruits that taste like summer even in the middle of December. And you better believe those preserves are a big deal. They're a centerpiece at nearly every Amish meal, whether it's strawberry jam on toast, pickled beets as a side dish, or some of the most flavorful canned peaches you've ever tasted. These preserves make the winter months a lot more bearable. So while some of us are out here buying frozen vegetables in the dead of winter, the Amish are out here feasting on food that's been carefully prepared and stored with love. And that's a wrap on these amazing Amish food traditions. From the homemade apple butter to the wood-fired oven magic, these time-honored recipes really show how food is about so much more than just eating. It's about family, community, and taking your time. Which of these Amish traditions would you love to try? Drop a comment below and let me know. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more awesome content like this. Catch you in the next one.